So when I first started doing tile work, doing layouts was much more complicated than it is today. Today we have these lasers that make it so much simpler. As a matter of fact, one of my very first YouTube videos was how to do a tile layout on a bathroom floor, and you'll have to go check out that video. I think I made it in 2012, so it was a long time ago. It'll be neat to watch because it was so long ago, different production quality and everything. But in that video, I was showing how to snap lines, use squares and levels, and doing a 3, 4, 5 Pythagorean theorem to find the square of the room. So it was a whole process. Now we have lasers. So if you're gonna be doing tile work on floors, I highly recommend getting a laser. It's gonna make it so much easier. This is a Behui. They're pretty cheap. You can just find them online. This one has 3 different axes, and that's what you want. So yeah, just make sure they got the 3 lasers on them. You'll be good to go. But this makes it so much simpler. Let me show you how we're gonna do it. So what we have down here now is the Dietrich Heat Peel and Stick. If you want to see that video, I'll put the link down in the description. But I'm pretty impressed by this peel and stick. Went down really fast. And now it's allowing us to directly set tile on it the same day. We don't need to wait for that mortar to cure underneath it. It's ready to go. So if you want to see that video, check it out. Let's get going on the laser and how we're going to lay this out. So you see this room here, it's got a bunch of different sides and knock kickouts and everything. It's not like just a square room. So there's a lot to go off of. The first thing I usually do is see if the longest runs in the room are square. I'm going to take a long run and I'm going to make a measurement here, and it doesn't matter. I'm just picking a round number. What I'm going to do is pick 3 feet. So I'm going to make a mark at 3 feet there. And I'm going to make a mark at 3 feet right here. So now that I have those 2 marks, I'm going to take my laser and I'm going to line it up with those 2 marks. And maybe I'll turn the light off. That helps the whites. Okay, so I got this laser line is lined up with my 2 marks. Turn the light back on so we can see. You see I got my Sharpie mark at 3 feet here. And then down here, here's my other Sharpie mark. You can see I got my mark right there. So once I have that, I'm going to see if the rest of the room is square to this long run on the vanity. So every house is built on a square. They usually frame up the perimeter. That's built on a square. And then all of the interior walls are going to go along that square. They might have an angled wall, but everything is basically built off the same square. I mean, here's a radius. Obviously that's not square, but this wall should be square and this wall should be square. So I'm going to start checking. First off, what I'll do is I'll check against this tile work. I got 56 1/8, and I'm going to check down here. I have 56 1/8. So actually, this long tile run is square with the vanity. But that's not enough. Now what I want to do is check the perpendicular line, and that's why I said you need the laser that's shooting out the different axes. We got a perpendicular. So this is creating our square here. We already have a square. We don't need to use the Pythagorean theorem, 3, 4, 5 triangles to make sure that we got square lines. This is doing that work for us. So what I'll do is I'll check, let me check this right here. 29 11/16. And this here, 29 11/16. So that square, I think we have found our square. 29 1/2, 29 1/2. That's 29 11. So that wall's a little out, but you kind of got to measure off a bunch of different places. You can't just go, oh wait, this wall is out, because it might just be one wall that's an anomaly and it might be out of square. And also when you're taking measurements, I try to stay in off of the side, like, because what you'll notice with drywall is they build out their mud. A lot of times they have more build out here, so the walls will kind of bow out a little bit as you get close to the corners. And then it's the same for inside corners too. They're usually built out from drywall mud. So I usually take my measurements, go at about 4 or 5 inches, and that's where I'll take my measurements. So I know that's square. So I'm gonna double check down here. Come over here, Spencer. Just don't step on the laser. So here is 4 1/4, and there is 4 5/16. That's not bad. 4 3/8, 4 1/2. So this wall, I think, is built a little bit out of square. So my main run is square. This is square. That's perpendicular. I can take one more measurement. Maybe I want to go off of this back wall just to double check. $151. $151 on the money. So that back wall right there is square with everything. This wall is just out a little bit, but I'll be able to adjust. And you might be asking why the baseboards are still on. Typically when we do a tile floor, we do take the baseboards off, put on new baseboards. In the housing tract that we're in, all the rest of the flooring throughout the house has a base shoe molding on it. So that's what we're gonna do to match the rest of the house. We're leaving the baseboards in, and we're gonna put the 1/2 inch by 3/4 base shoe that's going to cover the tile. So just so you know, typically I would advise to take the baseboards off. In this case, we don't have to. I'll show you. Let's go over here, Spencer. So yeah, so you can see here, here's on the wood floor. That's that base shoe molding that we're going to be putting back up on over the tile. You see here's a tile. So that's what we're doing. We're going to match what's already here. But now that I have found the square of the room, we need to figure out where we're going to be starting our tile. And now that's a subjective thing. I get questions about layout a lot. That's part of the artistic part of doing tile. There's a few general rules, but for the most part, a lot of it's up to the interpretation of the installer, where they think it's going to look best to have full tiles and whatnot. So we have a couple options here. For a general rule of thumb, I like to have a full tile. Well, let me back up. First of all, we're doing these 12 by 24 porcelain tiles, and we're going to be doing a 50% stagger. Now, a lot of the manufacturers will tell you that you can only do a 1/3 stagger, which is, breaking the bond right about here, not right in the middle like a brick. But we're going to be using leveling clips, and what happens when you use clips, it will flatten these tiles out so you don't have the lippage. So, and the reason why you would do a 1/3 is because these tiles typically are cupped a little bit. When they're baked in the kiln, they kind of cup up like this, so they'll be shaped like this. So if you were to do a 50% stagger, you would have lippage right here. So when you use leveling clips, they will flatten the tiles out so you can do a 50% stagger. So that's what we're doing. But that can go 2 different ways, right? We could lay the tiles going this way, or we could lay the tiles going this way. Again, somewhat subjective, but a general rule of thumb for me is I want the direction to lead into the room. So we're going to be going this way, and then it's going to stagger this way. So it could go either way, but I like to have the length of the plank going with the room, if that makes sense. So now that I know the direction we're running, I could put a full tile against here, or I could put a full tile against the vanity. Typically, the longest run, the most visible spot is where you want to have a full tile. Since both of them are square, I guess I can go either way, but I'll probably just take some measurements, because we also want to avoid small cuts. You don't want little tiny cuts. Those are kind of a drag. So not only do I need to figure out this axis, I need to figure out where we're going to start going this way. And in this room, because there's not really a long wall to go off of, I can either start full back in that corner. It's going to be fulls and halves, right? It's not going to be fulls because there's going to be stagger. Or I could do full right here at the threshold. I think I want to do a full tile here. Nice full tile. So I have the square. I don't want to move it. I want to let it stay here. What I'm going to do is just take some measurements to see. And these are 12 by 24 about. They're a little bit under. So if I went full tile off of there, I would have a full tile right about here, which is about in the middle of the doorway, which would be cool. And then I would have probably about a 9-inch cut under the vanity, that's good. And the way I can figure that out, you can figure out, Spencer, you can figure out, at the 2 foot, the 3 foot, the 4 foot, the 5 foot. So here's the 7 feet. And if it's 12 by 24 tile, that's, it's about grout joint's gonna be about here at the 7 feet. They're a little smaller, so it's probably gonna be right about there. Anyways, that's gonna be a nice big cut. And the other axis is every foot, because even though they're 2 foot tiles, they're gonna be staggered halfway. So basically every foot. So I'll take my tape measure. Just lay it out roughly here. And so here's the first one, so there won't be a sliver here. There's going to be a nice big cut. The joint's going to be right about here. As we come down, there's going to be a full tile about right here, and then another full tile right here. So we might end up with like a little 4-inch cut here, which again isn't bad at the closet. We come down here, it looks like we're going to have a grout joint here and a grout joint here. So this lays out well too. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to start with a full tile at that door. I've avoided sliver cuts, and I'm going to be utilizing the longest run we possibly can and have that focal point at the doorway when we walk in full tile. So now that I have that figured out, let's figure out where we're going to start our tile. And I think what we'll do is, what I'm going to do, to start this direction, I'm just going to start laying out tiles with spacers in them. So I know I want to start a full tile there. These are the 16th inch spacers and wedges. They're the Raimondi style. They're a little bit better though, because the Raimondis come folded up like this out of the package. They come folded up, and then you have to flatten each one out. What I've noticed what that does is it weakens that little point, so sometimes they snap off when you don't want them to. These guys are great. They still pop off really easy when you're done. Tilecoach.com, you can get a starter pack that has 200 wedges, 400 clips, and the pliers, and and here's the ergonomic pliers that come with it. So starter pack has all that, and then you can just re-up and buy more clips and wedges as you need. And this doesn't need to be done in a room like this. It doesn't have to be done right here. You could do it if you got room out there and then just measure, but since we have the room, this is a good sized room, we'll just do it. So what I can do, either one, what I'll probably do is take my pen. So I have my pen and I can just put some marks. This is where the grout joint's gonna go. So since I have my laser set up there, I can just measure from, I'll go this way. So 16 and 11/16. So what I did, now what I'm doing, because I know this is where the full tile is going to be, I'm measuring the distance from here to my square chalk line. Again, I haven't moved this. I know this is square off of the room. I don't want to move that. 16 and 11/16. I can go here and go 16 and 11/16 and make a mark. And then I can go all the way to this end and go 16 and 11/16 again. Okay. So now this line that's 16 and 11/16 off my original control line, that's going to be where an actual grout joint is going to be. So I got this axis, now I need to find this axis. So I think what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to go full tile off of this tile. So I'm going to leave myself maybe an 1/8 inch there. Give myself a little breathing room to put in grout. Again, these are big 16th joints that have a little bevel on them, so I'll go about a 16th. So I can do the same thing because we're going full tiles running this way. I got my control line. I'm going to measure control line to this grout joint, and then I can put a couple marks and extend it. 32 and a half. So I'm going to go down here. And go 32 and a half just on the strong side. You see that, Spencer?
Yeah.
32 and a half. I'll make my mark right here. There's a mark. And I can go down here. And this guy can be moved now. And go 32 and a half, just on the strong side right there. Okay, so this line is going to be a starting line, and then I have my perpendicular run going that way. So now I can take, now that I made my actual grout joint marks, I can pick this laser line up and put it on the marks I made this way. Turn the light off. With the light off, it's a little easier to see the lasers. Okay, so I double checked everything, and now I have my laser level set up exactly where the grout joints are going to be. But yeah, so this will be the starting point. This will be the very first tile that I set, and I can just start working on the room and set a bunch of tile. And by the time I get back here, I might need to reset my level. I might need to reset my laser because obviously I'll need to set a tile here, but this will allow me to get started and going. Since I'm doing a stagger this way, what I'm also going to do is put a laser halfway, so half of a tile, 23 and a half, that's going to be 11 and 3/4. So I'm going to do 11 and 3/4. This is just a cheapo DeWalt laser, but it'll work for what we're doing. The red line ones are a lot cheaper. So I'm gonna go 11 and 3/4, I say. The Dietrich heat lugs make it a little tricky because we're right in the middle. And then 11 and 3/4 is right there. There. See, where is it? Yeah. Boom. So I got 2 lasers. So now I don't have to snap any chalk lines or draw lines. I'm able to just start setting tile right off of what's here. So let's go ahead and get some thin set mixed up and we'll start getting some tile down. Okay. So another great feature of these 360 lasers is I put tape up on the walls so that it's always lined up. Look, I got one there and I got one here. So I can move this laser and line it back up. Same thing for the perpendicular. I did one here. And then I did also one in the closet there. Just use some green tape and a Sharpie. So I can move these now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna leave this tile down for reference. This guy is gonna get moved over. I'm just gonna leave this tile in here. I'm gonna take this out. Just gonna move this for now. My first tile is actually gonna be right here. And I'm gonna set the laser back up on it. The same thing for this guy. I got my reference line here. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick this up, get it out of the way for right now. So what's great about doing these laser lines is you see I didn't have to try to comb up to a Sharpie line or a chalk line. I can just go and then I don't have to worry about combing my thin set up to a line, which takes time. This tile's my gauge, so I'm just putting it right on here. So it takes a little while to get this fine-tuned to where it's hitting exactly on the lines again. But once you get it, this tile doesn't need to move anymore. I think that's it. Okay, I like that. I like where that's at. This can actually go this way just a hair. Oops, other way. How are we doing on that one, Spencer? We're right on that one, huh?
It's like right on the money.
Perfect. Okay, we're good. So now that I have this one, so this tile set, I'm not going to move it. So these guys right here, this splice that's on the Dietrich heat, they're always thicker than the Dietrich heat underlayment. So what I did is I lined up where that was gonna be, and I dadoed out the tile so that it could sit flush instead of trying to build all the rest of the thin set up or try to grind a hole out of the concrete. I just set the chop action on the saw to make the blade just go as deep as I wanted it to. It's probably about halfway through that tile. You can see that dado there. And so that way it should fit down nice and flush. Put it down. So I filled that dadoed area in with thin set just so it has good support. Squish it in. Beautiful, just like that. Well, I hope you guys learned something from this video. I know there's a lot to it. Maybe you just need to go back and rewatch it. Again, links for those other videos down in the description below. I love that you stayed till the end of this video to watch the whole thing. And I love you. I love being your tile coach. We'll see you on the next video.